Have you ever waited for something? Maybe it was a package or a letter from a friend. You remember that feeling that you felt as you were excited walking to the mailbox to eagerly look inside to see if it had been delivered. But then there's a moment of frustration or grief when you open the mailbox and nothing's there. That the package has been delayed in some way or some form. Sometimes we do that with the things of God. We get upset when our life has been delayed in moments. The current process that we're living in our life has kind of been delayed lately. Things that we've wanted to do, the way that we want to go outside, the way we want to shop, it's been delayed. But we find in Galatians chapter 5, starting in verse 22, that the fruit of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, and patience. We've been doing a study on the fruit of the Spirit and attacking each one separately. And this past Wednesday, we talked about patience and how patience can be a frustrating thing. Nobody likes to wait. When we stand in line at our stores, we don't like to wait in line. I can become impatient when I go to a fast food store and I go through the drive-thru and I've got to go sit and park because I feel like I came to a fast food restaurant so I didn't have to sit and wait. That my meal would be ready by the time I got from the little speaker box to the window, that it would be waiting for me, but it doesn't always happen that way. Let me read this for you. In James chapter 5, it says, "Dear brothers and sisters, be patient as you wait for the Lord's return. Consider the farmer who patiently waits for the rains in the fall and in the spring. They eagerly look for the valuable harvest to ripen. You too must be patient. Take courage, for the coming of the Lord is near." Consider being a farmer, someone who has planted something. And maybe you are someone who has planted. Me, I'm not very good at planting things, so I try to not do that because usually things spring up and then they end up dying out and then it becomes a bigger mess for me. But when we consider the farmer, he plants his seed, he tills up the ground, and when he does this, he patiently waits for the rain to do its thing in fall. Waits for the sun to rise to begin to grow the seed inside the ground. He patiently waits. If he were to be impatient and dig up that ground early, the seed wouldn't last. If he waited for the first bud of that apple tree to pop out and try to pluck an apple from that moment, he wouldn't get anything because we'd have to be patient for it to grow. You and I do this on a daily basis. Sometimes we do this with the things of God. God says to wait in a moment, but we try to rush it, or we try to say, "Hey God, your plan is awesome. I think it's great with what you're doing with your plan, but there's this waiting thing in your plan that's not really for me, so I need to speed along the process." So we start to make our own plans and throw our own things in there. When we do, we realize it's not as good as we hoped it would be, or it's not as good as God had planned it to be for us. Why is this? It's because we weren't patient on the Lord. We've heard the old saying, patience is a virtue, and it's so true, is because when we can wait upon the things of the Lord, we know, just like the harvest and the farmer who's there, it's going to be the very best for us. It's not going to be in the rush moment. Now, we talked about things, and people will tell you, there are moments and times that things in the moment are the very best things, but not everything in the moment is the best. Let's take food, for instance. Throwing it in the microwave versus baking it in the oven and taking the slow time to marinate it, it is always so much better. Patience teaches us to marinate the things of God, to let them marinate, to let them come up and be the very best they can be in our lives. Continuing on here in James chapter 5, it says, "Don't grumble about each other, brothers and sisters, or you will be judged. For look, the judge is standing at the door. For example, of patience and suffering, dear brothers and sisters, look at the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. We give honor to those who endure your suffering. For instance, you know about Job, a man of great endurance. You can see how the Lord was kind to him at the end, for the Lord is full in tenderness and mercy." And then if we jump back to James chapter 1, verses 2 and 3, we know that it simply says this: "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy, for you know that your faith is tested. Your endurance has a chance to grow." So when our faith is tested, and when we have all of these great tribulations and trials and tests and all these things that come around us, it gives chance and opportunity for our patience to grow. So don't despise when you're going through a trial in a situation, because it's making you into a greater person. It's making you into a better person. And leaning upon God and being patient upon God will, in a sense of food marinating in the oven and simmering, when we walk through those trials and tribulations and we allow those things in our lives and we don't rush that situation, we're allowing our lives to be marinated, our lives to simmer. When we're patient and we wait upon the Lord, He wants the very best for us. And as we're patient for Him, He will give the very best to us. And it will blow our minds in every way that we can. So I just want to encourage you today. What you're going through is temporary. Be patient in it. Know that the fruit of the Spirit produces patience. So lean upon the Spirit, because in certain situations, and most in all situations, I need the Spirit to walk out what God has called me to walk out. And God has called you to walk out patience in your life. I love you. Be encouraged today. I can't wait till we can meet face to face and see each other face to face again. Be blessed.